It is a Tuesday evening here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, and we have the tropics coming alive in the next few days. A system out in the tropical Atlantic looks like it's getting ready to strengthen into a tropical depression or a tropical storm. Meanwhile, we have a non-tropical storm system, which we're going to talk about, that is sitting right off the coast of Virginia, and that's been producing heavy rains and some strong gusty winds in parts of the coastal mid-Atlantic. And of course, we have our own issues here to deal with, which we will talk about and maybe take a look at the weekend. Rayo's got radars tonight for the first time in a while because it's been so quiet. So let's get going on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast if you shop on Amazon. Use our referral link that's on the descriptor of this podcast on YouTube or on Spotify. Just do your shopping like you normally would do. Just use our link to get there, and Amazon sends us back a little bit of coin, and that helps keep the podcast, at least the live version of the podcast, commercial free. So shop the Joe and Joe referral link on Amazon. And if you need a new weather station, get the Tempest weather station, Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system is yours, and you will be joining the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the top of the chat board and the descriptor to this podcast. The coupon code is
Summer 2025, which really only has about another week to go, and then we're going to have to change it to maybe autumn 2025.
Right, and if you do, you'll get
a lovely 10% off.
So here we are, and we talked about this low that was sitting off the coast yesterday of North Carolina, tropical, non-tropical, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if it's not a tropical system or a subtropical system, maybe that's maybe a fairer description. It's certainly giving a great imitation of one. The thing that gets me, and we mentioned this yesterday, I mean, we've seen them give names to some of these systems out there that, I don't know, quite frankly, didn't deserve to be named. But this one, they've chose not to do anything. And I'm looking this morning. There were wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour along the northeast coast of North Carolina and on up to areas of coastal parts of the Delmarva Peninsula. There's been some very heavy rains that have occurred with flash flooding, but yet not a peep from NHC.
It is kind of amazing. I would have thought that at the very least they might. But maybe it's a, what would you call this, Joe? A cold core system, or I don't understand why either that they did not issue any kind of a. I'm not an advisory or a watch or something like that, but an explanation as to why they didn't think that this was going to be a tropical system.
There was something on one of the discussions this morning, and I'm going to bring up the satellite, not the satellite, but the surface map, because there are distinct frontal boundaries that are showing up. Not much of frontal boundaries, but they've analyzed a cold front extending from the low out to the Atlantic and a stationary boundary that's running eastward. And as long as that is the case, I guess they just decided that this is a cold core system. Although when you look at it on the satellite loop, well, now it's getting closer to the coast. It's sort of asymmetric. You've got convection that's going on not too far from where the center is. To the northeast side, look, they made a judgment call, and I guess maybe technically they're correct, but I would have thought that they would have at least put up a little yellow box there that said, something non-tropical. Don't expect it to become totally tropical, and go from there. But you know what? That's not my job, not your job. It was their job.
Yep. Well, whatever it is, it certainly is doing a number on Virginia Beach and Norfolk, Virginia, and the Virginia Capes. Very strong gusty winds, heavy downpours, heavy rains, and some of that activity, as the system moves northward, some of that activity may make it as far north as parts of the tri-state area, although whatever precipitation we see, I think, in the immediate New York City, Long Island, Hudson Valley, northern New Jersey area will be relatively light, maybe in the form of light rain and drizzle. Joe, on my Facebook forecast for the lower Hudson Valley, I said spotty light rain and drizzle, probably toward daybreak tomorrow morning, and then all through the day tomorrow, primarily south of Interstate 287. Now, I live closer to the I-84 corridor, and it would not surprise me at all if it remained rather cloudy, rather dreary, and it would not surprise me if we didn't get a single drop out of this. But then again, we might get a spritz here or a light shower there. But it's not going to be anything compared to what they're seeing down along the mid-Atlantic area right now with this particular coastal system.
Asymmetric, by the way, Latex Dreams asked the question. It's not completely circular. It's kind of tilted to one side. It sort of looks like, a circle, but it's more like an oval, or, it's uneven in terms of its circular shape. Would you not agree on that, Joe?
Yes, I will agree.
Well, there's the wide shot of the radar. Joe's going to be looking.
Or maybe I should have said in a more scientific venue, I concur.
You concur. Okay. Well, concur with the local radars if you would, especially down in right south of the Delaware state line in the Delmarva Peninsula around Chincoteague, Virginia. They've been getting clobbered for the last 4 or 5 hours with a band of thunderstorms that has been coming in from off the ocean.
Yes, we were talking about whether or not we should mention, or whether or not I would mention convection for our area for tomorrow or early Thursday, and I still don't think that it's going to be worthy of that. The air will be too stable and too cool. We may have a tough time tomorrow in some areas, making it much above 70. But down further south, closer to the center of this coastal disturbance, there are thunderstorms, and some of them have been dumping heavy amounts of rain in a very short interval of time. I have on my screen right now the Wakefield or Norfolk, Virginia radar, and you can see for yourselves the areas of yellow and slightly orange that are coming in from the Atlantic Ocean, kind of spiraling in on that counterclockwise flow from that coastal storm. Indeed, is where you're seeing the heavy bouts of very heavy rain across the lower end of the Delmarva Peninsula. In fact, Delaware is only getting clipped by a little bit of precipitation, but further south across coastal Virginia and Maryland, that's where they are really getting hammered right now with, again, some very heavy, significant rainfall.
You could go a little further northwest if you'd like, or north.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No.
Juggling.
I was juggling two things at once here. So
let's take a look. This is the Washington D.C. Sterling, Virginia radar, and you can see that the activity is moving generally from the ocean on an east to west movement across the Chesapeake Bay area, and also across portions of eastern and central Maryland. Washington is in line for seeing some heavier shower activity, at least in the past hour or two. And also some of that activity has now worked its way up into southern sections or southeastern sections of Pennsylvania, and also into northern sections of Virginia. And in fact, if we go, let's say, to Roanoke, Floyd County, you can see that, if you will, the precipitation has worked its way all the way across central sections of Virginia, has not, however, reached all the way to the western end of the state of Virginia. Maybe 1 or 2 showers crossing through extreme southern West Virginia. But the activity, again, for the most part, is most prolific right along the immediate Virginia coast. And in fact, if you go, yesterday the storm was off of Cape Hatteras, and they were getting hammered pretty well. But right now, the coastline of North Carolina, not seeing very much of anything. In fact, if you notice up here, the precipitation is moving from the ocean from east to west, But down here, whatever few showers there still are over eastern North Carolina is moving in the regular direction, the normal direction from west northwest to east southeast. So you would see that somewhere around here, where my cursor is probably where the storm center happens to be right at this moment in time. And really, that's all that there is. I mean, if we go up into the New York area, you will see that there's some spotty precipitation down over southern sections of New Jersey, and I think a lot of this here is, ground clutter, or the radar is not quite at the right angle or pointing at the right direction or altitude, and so you're coming up with this mock area of precipitation over southern sections of Connecticut and on into portions of the Hudson Valley. But there's nothing falling right now in the immediate vicinity, and it will take until maybe sometime after midnight before some of these showers that you see coming onshore over southern and south central New Jersey work their way far enough north to affect portions of the immediate New York City metropolitan area.
All right. Great. Rich Rothmansky said that the Rados Rayo should be sponsored by Harm and Hammer laundry detergent. Okay. We got a few other things to look at here too. I'm going to switch over now. We've got the tropical wave that's out in the tropical Atlantic, and that's the Hurricane Center forecast guidance, which I'll come back to in a moment. But here's the wide satellite view. I like this satellite shot, by the way. I think it's really cool to have see the Earth, the whole northern hemisphere there, and you see the disturbances that are going on in the tropics. Uh, the one in the central Atlantic, it's a rather large system. It's very elongated from north to south. God, it's probably about 10 degrees north-south, and it's getting some curvature. It's becoming better organized. We are waiting to see maybe a cluster of thunderstorms forming around a broad low-pressure center that's out there. That might take another 24 hours or so to take place, but it looks like it is on its way to developing. Didn't really see any evidence of Saharan dust or dry air today out there, so we'll watch and see what it does. But back to that Hurricane Center forecast. Let's look and see if the new outlook is in, and it is, and they kind of left it alone. They just say that has changed little in organization in the last 12 hours, but conditions are conducive for additional development. A depression or storm is expected to form in the next day or two. They have a 90% chance of this becoming a tropical storm, a tropical depression or a tropical storm in the next 48 hours. And as I said, when you go look at the hurricane tracks with this, it is kind of on a northwest-northwest or northwest course, and it sort of bends back more west-northwest once it gets west of 50, and then gradually turning more northwest. And I mean, it looks like it wants to recurve, at least on the model guidance, and both on the hurricane model guidance and on the general global model guidance, 60 east of 65. And we'll take a look at what the upper air looks like. I think given the kind of setup that we have in the Atlantic, this sort of makes sense. Maybe it winds up being another instance where we start to see some adjustments to the left. Maybe the ridge in the Atlantic is stronger than what's being modeled. So we'll of course evaluate that when we get to look at what the model guidance is up to. I'll switch over now. We'll go to the continental US and take a look at what's happening across the US, because we do have some thunderstorms running around again today, setting up scattered up and down the lower and middle Mississippi River valleys. You can see the thunderstorms reaching up into northern Iowa and extend all the way down into southern Louisiana. But there are breaks in between. It's not one continuous solid line of storms. And also we have a lot of activity going on back through Nebraska and Kansas, northwest Kansas and into Colorado, and extending down into New Mexico. We also have some moisture from what was Tropical Storm Mario in the Pacific, which is weakening and will soon be gone, but the moisture from that is going to wind up going up into Southern California in over the next couple of days, and that's why we saw last night where WPC is indicating rainfall in Southern California. Storm Prediction Center tonight's got a severe thunderstorm watch that is up in Nebraska, northwest Kansas, and northeastern Colorado. It's inside and it's surrounding an area of slight risk for severe weather. Also, marginal risk over the Delmarva Peninsula in southeastern Virginia, which we've seen played out by that coastal low. Tomorrow, a small area of marginal risk, northeast New Mexico, southeast Colorado, westernmost Oklahoma, and northwestern Texas. We do have an area of general convection being indicated from central New Jersey down to northeastern North Carolina for Wednesday into Thursday morning. And then as we look at day 3, that's gone in the east, and we don't have any severe weather to speak of being indicated elsewhere. And here's what WPC is looking at as far as rain is concerned. Now, they've got a half an inch running almost, but not quite, to say it gets up to about northern Monmouth County on a diagonal. And then it really tails off sharply after that, where once you go north of New York City, you're talking about little or nothing. So there's going to be a really tight gradient, I guess, from going no rain at all to maybe a half an inch. In southern New Jersey, it's more like 3/4 of an inch to an inch, starting at 8 o'clock tonight, which is in 5 minutes, and going to, again, this is pretty much front end loaded because there's nothing much down the road after this. We're seeing some heavy rain indicated for parts of southeast Florida on the order of a few inches, and then a large area of an inch to an inch and a half, plus in some areas across the northern plains, down through Iowa into Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And then you see the rain that's being indicated for California, particularly Southern California, where we have areas of 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half in some of the mountainous areas to the east of Los Angeles and to the east of San Diego. So here's our low for tomorrow. This was earlier today. It is making landfall tonight, coming ashore in southeast Virginia. And you kind of see the rain area gets broken up a little bit as we go through the overnight and tomorrow. Some of that shower activity lifting up the coast, but how much of that is going to hold together remains to be seen. The low itself really just weakens and then slides to the east. Still, the models are indicating some patches of shower activity. I don't think this is going to be a continuous rain for most places. Maybe a bit more continuous in southern New Jersey and in southern Pennsylvania and points south, but I think points north, it becomes much more blotchy and scattered in nature. And then certainly over time, as we go into Wednesday night and early Thursday morning, we see it pulling apart at the seams, really, because the low just gets very weak and goes out. And then we could start maybe some improvement, perhaps later Thursday. We've got a frontal boundary coming down Friday that's going to move on through at another big high, a 1032-ish high, Joe, in eastern Canada, just north of Lake Ontario, which means the onshore winds, after maybe a very short break from winds coming in from off the ocean, we go back to winds coming in from off the ocean again over the weekend. But I think it's going to be a dry, nice weekend overall. The moist flow is going to set up again maybe in the Carolinas and down to Florida. You see the European is actually generating some rain in parts of North Carolina and even in interior Virginia come Sunday. But it looks like a dry, nice weekend and even into the start of next week. We may have to wait till, I don't know, maybe Wednesday or Thursday before we get into any kind of showery rains.
I would agree. I didn't mention anything about precipitation aside from spotty. I like your term blotchy. Now I said for the lower Hudson Valley for tomorrow and tomorrow night, I said spotty light rain or drizzle. I should have said blotchy light rain or drizzle. Spotty or blotchy, you get the idea. It's not going to be very significant.
Very uneven. Some people get it, others do not.
Yep. And again, mostly south again, as I said at the start of the show, mostly south of Interstate 287, if you know where that is, in central Westchester and across most areas in Rockland County are south of 287 too. But if you go north on up into Orange County or Putnam County, if there is any precip tomorrow or tomorrow night, it'll be, again, as Joe just mentioned, blotchy or spotty, and some may not even see a drop. It does not look, and if we don't get, and if we're among the places here where I am that we don't see any precipitation as well, as you mentioned, Joe, it may not be until the middle of next week before we see anything in terms of significant shower or rain activity.
The upper air in the Atlantic, just going back to whatever's going to develop out there in the north central Atlantic. By the way, first off, with respect to the system that's along the coast, another reason why this is still a cold core system is that there is a cold upper low reflection being indicated with a cutoff low there in southeastern Virginia. So that probably is another reason why we're not seeing uh, mentions here by the Hurricane Center. They just they're just strictly treating this as a non-tropical system. The This is what's going to be the tropical storm. If you look at the flow off the East Coast, it is not the kind of flow that you would see with respect to something coming up the East Coast. When you have troughing along the East Coast, it acts as a shield. Now, there's a deep upper low in Labrador that's dropping down into Canada, in eastern Canada and Atlantic Canada and northern New England. That brings down the next big high for the weekend. That upper low goes out to the east, but there's enough of an influence to drag this thing more northward in time. The ridge in the Atlantic is not all that strong, and then it gets caught in some, I would guess we can call it, at least initially, some gentle southwesterly winds aloft. There's a short wave up there in Minnesota that's going to be dropping southeastward and strengthening, and you can follow the flow here. Here's this upper low. Here's your tropical storm, and you got these southwest winds, not strong southwest winds, but just enough to nudge it along to the northeast. So if it were able to get further west, it might react to this deep upper low that's dropping down into the Great Lakes later next week, but it's not doing that. By that time, it gets caught by the old upper low in Labrador that moves out towards Greenland, and it just gets kicked away to the northeast and kind of makes it almost to Ireland as it whips up and around. So I don't think, barring a surprise that maybe the Atlantic ridge is a little bit stronger, this is going to be another one of these systems that recurves. And over the longer haul, when this cutoff next week drops in to the Ohio Valley and then moves towards the East Coast, that could be maybe a more significant rain generator as it moves eastward. And then out that goes, and then the Europeans got a ridge it's got another upper low that drops down from Labrador into New England, strong ridging up in northeastern Canada. Well, that's very interesting. And then another trough that runs down from an upper low in south central Canada, southeastward into Louisiana. So it's a really interesting 500 in that you got a lot of things running around. And if you have setups that show up at the wrong place in the wrong time, and you've got a tropical system in the equation, you might have some issues. But for now, at least with what's out in the central Atlantic, that's going to recurve. There is going to be another system behind it that will come out over the weekend. We'll have to wait and see whether that winds up doing anything or not. But for the time being, I don't think we're going to have any issues with the tropics anytime soon.
Well, on my screen, I am sharing the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, which is pretty amazing when you look at it because it looks like 98% of the country from the period from September 22nd through September 26th is expected to have above normal temperatures. And in fact, in some cases, looking at the northern plains, parts of Montana, Wyoming, Minnesota, the Dakotas, portions of Wisconsin, that is the area where they're looking at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're looking at in that zone that I just mentioned, 70 to 80% probability of above normal temperatures. I mean, if you talk about warm conditions or, milder than normal temperatures as we move into the latter part of September, just about everybody in the United States, the contiguous United States, are going to see it. Even if you look at Alaska, the only part of Alaska that's going to be below normal will be in the extreme western and southwestern part of that vast state. Everywhere else in Alaska will be near or even a bit above normal temperatures, and the same holds true for Hawaii, above normal. So it seems like everybody is on the warm side. Now, if you're wondering about precipitation, well, take a look. We have here near normal here in the eastern United States. Joe, for your area and points south across the Gulf coastal areas, they have above normal, but not really all that. It's like leaning above normal, about 33 to 40% perhaps for above normal precipitation. But most areas in the east will be near normal. Now, if you're wondering beyond that, let's take a look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, and you could see that now the western U.S. is starting to cool off a little bit, but for the rest of the country, I would say for about, 75 or 80% of the country, going all the way out to the end of the month of September, above normal temperatures. And as far as precipitation, you take a look at this. Below normal precip across much of the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and extending into the Ohio Valley area. The only place where it's going to be above normal to any significant degree will be out in the Pacific Northwest, where they may get some rain or showers from, let's say, a disturbance moving in from the Pacific coast. So what we're looking at, Joe, apparently for the latter part of September is, at least in this part of the country, is a trend toward above normal temperatures and drier than normal conditions. And in fact, one more look here, temperature-wise, the only place where there's a slight risk of hotter or above normal hazardous temperatures would be over in southern sections of Arizona. I guess out there they may be looking at 95 or maybe 100-degree temperatures there. Precipitation-wise, no hazards posted. No indication from the 24th through the end of the month, the 30th, of any significant rainfall. Snow, I'm not even about, well, wait a minute, take a look at this. Snow, slight risk right along the Continental Divide in western sections of Montana and western sections of Wyoming and a sliver of eastern Idaho. There is a slight risk of heavy snow sometime around the 26th to the 28th of September. And how about wind? Any significant wind expected? Yeah, way over in the far west, right along the Pacific coast for the 24th to the 28th, somewhat windy conditions, slight risk of that happening there. So really, as we look into the second half of September, it looks like for most areas, tranquil, with not much going on in terms of extreme temperatures or even extreme precipitation. So enjoy.
Okay. And we're going to do Briller Jeopardy next. But tonight, Briller Jeopardy is being sponsored by Dull Sliced Pineapple, Joe, for a boring dessert or snack. And Captain Crud. Inside each box of Captain Crud is a real pirate. It tastes cruddy even in milk. You got to give, you have to give credit to these people that came up with the stuff. And by the way, the Captain Crud card, okay, and I've mentioned this, that when we were kids, for a dime, you could buy a pack with 10 cards in it, okay, with these products, with these all different products. The Captain Crud card right now, Joe, you can get it. It's for $75. $75 for the Captain Crud card. I mean, good God.
I may have I may have had wacky packages, but I may have told the story quickly. I did when I was married in '84 and went on my honeymoon. My mom went into my room and decided that now that I was gone, she was going to get rid of everything, and she did practically everything in there. And I may have had a few of those cards that she tossed as the garbage. The thing that I'm really still to this day upset about is she got rid of my Jerry Kuzman Nolan Ryan rookie card from 1968, which, Joe, if you go on eBay, you could find goes now for anywhere between $500 and $750.
Oh yeah, I know. All of us had mothers that threw away our baseball cards.
Yep.
Okay. Although I will tell you really quick, you know that show on PBS, the one where they, you bring them there, you bring in your stuff, and they tell you what it's worth.
Yes.
Well, this woman apparently,
Antiques Roadshow.
right. Well, this woman brought in a picture that her great 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 grandfather put together, uh, and they were the very first baseball cards that were made back in what 18 in the 1860s. Because he was friends with the grandfather was friends with I can't remember the name of the players, but if you said the name, I would know it. Anyway, um, so her great 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 grandfather wanted to put them up, you know, frame them and just put them up in a, to hang them on a wall. She had no idea the value of those cards, Joe, was almost $2 million.
Unbelievable.
$2 million. I
And
mean,
what did the
this,
woman say? Oh my goodness.
well, something like that. Yeah. These people come in and they have these items that they're told they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes, and some of them have no reaction at all. That just this which just astounds me. Anyway,
So they just like that. How much do you think this would be worth? When the Daily News, the New York Daily News, back in the '60s and early '70s, they actually sponsored a science fair, a citywide science fair. All the boroughs were involved. And when I was in junior high school, I was in that science fair and I took first place one year. I think it was 1970 or 1971 in the Bronx. But all of the borough finalists received this. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. I'm not sure whether or not it comes in. Can you see what
I
this
see
is?
it. Yeah.
All right. This is it's in a frame here. This was a film strip. You may see this here. This film strip that I'm pointing to right here, this film strip landed on the moon with astronaut Alan Bean. Alan Bean was the uh, fourth man to walk on the lunar surface. There was Neil Armstrong, Ed Aldrin, Buzz Aldrin on Apollo 11. Pete Conrad was number 3 on Apollo 12, and his partner on Apollo 12 was Alan Bean. As you can see, Alan Bean's autograph is here. But there was a camera, a 16 millimeter camera that they used on the surface of the moon, and I guess the first 20 or 30 feet was blacked out or whatever like that. So they took that 20 or 30 feet of film and they brought it back, cut it up into film strips, put it in a frame, and gave it to the borough finalists of the New York City Science Fair in the early '70s. And I happened to get one of these awards. And so that film strip that you see here actually landed on the moon with
That's cool.
astronauts Pete Conrad and Alan Bean. And I've often wondered, how much would this be worth? I wish Antiques Roadshow would come to New York. I would bring this and just ask them. Now, I'm never going to get rid of this. I'm never going to
Right.
sell it. This has been with me for more than 50 years, and I don't intend. I'll pass it on to my son when I leave this planet. But I often wonder, how much would something like this be worth? It's not a moon rock, but it is something that landed on the moon and has been brought back to the Earth. Amazing.
Yep. All right, let's get Briller Jeopardy done here. We're doing the dates of the first snowfalls, the earliest that it might have has snowed in the following cities. We're going to start with Denver, Joe. Denver, Colorado.
Now, may I guess whether or not the first measurable or the earliest measurable snowfall came in September?
I will Put it out there that it came in September.
All right. Well, September. I remember there was one year they had, and that wasn't too long ago. It was 90 degrees one day, and then the next day they had like 2 inches of snow. I'll say September 12th.
You believe it or not early enough.
Really?
Yeah, we already have. Well, I'm going to give credit to those that are like either right spot on or around it. The sellout at September 4th, William Uber at September 2nd, and Rich Rothmansky, who actually got the date correct, September 3rd.
Wow.
September 3rd. Well, we had it just a few years ago when they had an all-out blizzard around. Well, I think it was around September 26th or 27th.
That's amazing. There
Yep.
really is. And that's
Next,
why when you go to Denver. Now, wait a minute. I'm not sure now. Is Coors Field where the Colorado Rockies play? They're in
I think
Denver.
so. I believe
Is it
so.
it's a covered field or a retractable roof or whatever? I think it's retractable.
Tractable.
No.
Next, we have Detroit, Michigan.
I'll say early October. I'll say October 2nd.
A little too early for Detroit.
Okay.
So let's see. Anybody on the chat board venture a guess for Detroit? Do I hear Detroit? Northern Grace is close at with October 10th, and Frank R is close in the other direction. Coin Pig at Frank R at the 16th, October 15th for Coin Pig. Miss Fowlerite gets it though, 12th, the 12th of October. Next is Dallas, Joe. Dallas.
Oh, Dallas. All right. Cold air can plunge straight south through the plain states down into what they call a Texas norther sometimes, or a blue norther. So I would think that Dallas, not October or September, obviously, but I would think sometime like November, uh, November 12th.
It's a little too late, believe it or not, but it is November. Patrick Darcy at November 3rd. Boy, they're guessing it tonight, Joe. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. No, not November 3rd, but close. Coin Pig, November 2nd. Thank you, November
Wow.
2nd. But honorable mention to Patrick Darcy and Latex Dreams with November 3rd, and Northern Grace, November 2nd. Okay, Portland, Oregon.
You know, you would think that Portland and also Seattle probably would not get snow until probably it gets really cold, like in December. But then there's the oddity, the occasional weird setup where you get just enough cold air to come in. I'll say October 21st.
Your logic is correct. You went a little bit too early. Okay, a little bit too early. Coin Pig says probably October 31st. You're close. Frank R is even closer at October 28th. Okay, so if you figure out the math, that leaves you just two. So Portland would be October 29th, Latex Streams. That's correct, October 29th. And Philadelphia.
Well, we know that New York is October 15th, and we know that Boston is October 10th. So I'm going to go by the 5-day rule and say, actually, you know what? I remember that October 10th storm that Boston had was also snowing during the World Series in Baltimore in 1979. So I'm going to say October 10th, 1979.
Ring the bell for yourself because it is October the 10th.
There you go. I don't know why New York. We said last night October 15th, 18 something or other. I think New York also had, although maybe it didn't accumulate to any. Do you remember just a trace? But I do remember it happened in Baltimore. So yeah.
And the bonus tonight is Portland, Maine.
Well, again, Boston was October 10th, 1979, and same for Philadelphia. Portland, could they possibly have gone earlier than that? I don't think September. Maybe I'll say October 4th.
Well, it is in September for Portland, Maine.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you're way off, guys. If you're going in November for Portland, it's Maine, for God's sake. Northern Grace at September 28th and Conroy Jet at September 30th are surrounding the actual date, which is Miss Fowlerite has at September 29th. So there you have it. Those are the earliest snowfall dates for tonight. And on
No,
that
no
note,
bonus.
by the way, I want to just mention really quick, and before we say goodbye, that Robert Redford passed away today. And if you ever want to see Robert Redford before he became Robert Redford, he just as an aside, one of his earliest jobs was on Perry Mason, believe it or not, and he was also in an episode of The Twilight Zone with the great Gladys Cooper
Right.
playing Mr. Death.
Yep.
So, if you ever want to see some of his first work in Hollywood, check out the Twilight Zone episode. I forgot what it was called, and also the Perry Mason episode that he was on. So on that note, we're going to say goodnight and just remind everybody that we'll be back here tomorrow night at 7:35.
We'll be here.
Nighty night, everybody.
Good night, folks.